So Kuro, round of applause for Kuro Wikaze. Um, he finished the 14-day challenge from start to finish. Kuro, please try to link your before and after, and let us see your progress. I do definitely notice a progress in your rendering. I notice some major progress in the way. Why do you give me such a small resolution? Why, Lord? Um, okay, it doesn't matter. But I see an improvement in the way you've unified the flesh, made it feel like it's all living under the same skin. There's not much outlining. You are missing some. Wow, the resolution is so crap. Oh my gosh, you are missing some really important details. First detail is the lower eyelid. Please do not skip use of the lower eyelid. Um, I need better quality. This is killing me. Somebody send me better quality. Somebody save me. Oh my god, let me zoom. Let me look for it. Oh, there it is. Save image as desktop. Save gloss. Gloss. No. Da. Okay. So, what did I want changed about this? This is your final 14-day challenge submission. So, you did not get basically how the 14-day challenge works is I have to give you a critique every single day. That's sort of the ideal 14-day challenge is you get a critique every single day from someone who's trained to see these issues. Of course, you did not have that. Maybe you did from the community, which is great. It's community, join it. There's people always talking and giving you guys critiques whenever I'm absent. So yeah, one of the major issues that I found in this is some of the core shadows that I told you about. These core shadows are missing. Core shadow beneath the spherical function of the eye. So the influence of the sphere on the lower eyelid, a shadow was missing to represent that function. That's completely missing. And I need that to live. Second thing is an exaggerated use of the eyelashes or exaggerated rendering of the eyelashes. You do not need to render the eyelashes this much. We will read the eyelashes. If you over render, like I said in the written critique form of this, you're making it seem like you're giving a mascara commercial. So you really don't need this level of rendering. Keep the detail for the eyeballs. The corners of the eyes are not spherical, they are rectangular, which is like try to keep the circle of the eyeball in a cube, a sort of proper cube, a right angle cube. I forget what it's called. Damn it. But try to make sure that the sphere stays a perfect sphere and you're not drawing the eye along a rectangular influence and overstretching the eye. Also, the dark of the eye needs to be less dilated. Is that what it is? Dilated or not dilated? So what you have here is a bit cartoony. And what I would need to see is a more realistic representation of where that dark sits on a face. Okay, so before, after, way too representational. I had that cat eye exaggeration happening and influencing your rendering. It didn't feel very real, and that caused you to have a widened face. The face was wide, the head was wide. And that's what I always say, when you have one problem, it influences other issues as well. And you don't notice till you fix that one problem, which was the eye width. The eye width was a major issue here. So I'm just taking care of that. The eye, now it's just sort of the placement of the eyes, making sure you're not depending too much on that kind of eye shape. Don't draw symbolically. There are still influences of symbolic drawing. So before, after, kind of narrowed down the face a little bit. Also, there is a shadow that sits between eyebrows. And this is one of the core shadows I also talked about. You didn't have much of it before, and I would need to see a greater representation of it. Also, the nose that you're drawing is a bit also symbolic. You need to really look up a reference and observe where the dark spots sit on the nose, where they actually hover, how they taper off, how the edges are created. So that's also something that I recommend. Do some nose studies, Kuro. Sometimes when you do too much of a one kind of study, like if you do too much of a whole face, you don't spend enough time on single features. So do you know what I mean, Kuro, when I say that? You need to spend some more time personally dealing with every single little feature on its own. So one day for lips, one day for eyes, one day for noses, so that you don't have consistent issues that are never considered unless you draw a whole face. Sometimes you just don't shouldn't have to draw a whole face to study a nose. Sometimes just study a nose for the nose's sake. You don't have to, take on a project and paint a whole portrait and a whole face and a whole personality just so that you have an opportunity to study the shape of the nose. So I really recommend you look up some nose references and work with them. What you had before was a little challenged function-wise. It was a little symbolic, as you can see. So before, after. It's pretty much what I want to see in these 14-day challenge. I want to see the core lights, the core shadows, and the dark spots. And that's pretty much what I want to see an improvement on. The form structure, the sculpting, all of that, I want to see an improvement on that in the 14th day. If on the 14th day, after 2 solid weeks of drawing a face every single day and you still have trouble with the core shadows, it means you have trouble with your imagination and rotation of form. It means there's a problem in your visual library about how to think about a head as a 3D object. If that's an issue, if there is in any way me diagnosing that you have a problem with form, there needs to be some serious recalculation and rethinking on your study habits. Meaning, Kuro, before you try your next phase, Kurokaze, try a form study. Challenge yourself in rendering and creating a form in an open space. That will really push your mind to start challenging. You're going to start challenging your mind and push it toward being much better at rotating a 3D object in your mind, which is really difficult. I mean, it's no easy thing to do. Rotating something in your mind means a really powerful imagination engine in your brain, and you want to be able to have something like that. If you're going to go into art, if you're going to be an artist, you want to be able to imagine at an extensive detail level, at least form-wise, rotation-wise, in your brain before you start to draw anything. It's much easier to grasp drawing a vase or drawing a leaf or drawing a tree if you have a good rotation of the core shapes that sit beneath the vase and the leaf and the tree. And unless you draw a tree, you're never going to experience the tree form. Why do that to yourself? Why not try practicing some cylinders? A cylinder is the core shape of a tree. Why not try practicing some papers, drawing some papers, what do papers look like? That'll help you one day drawing leaves or drawing hair or clusters of hair laying on top of each other. Don't wait until the next time you draw a tree to practice a tree. Drawing the cylinder will not only affect the way you draw a tree and make you draw a tree much better, but it will affect the way you draw a sword, the way you draw a sword handle, the way you draw armor, the way you draw shins, because all of those are cylinder-based shapes. So if you practice the core shapes that define the form that sit beneath all of these detailed objects, the next time you try those shapes, you will have already experienced the form that these objects are, the common denominator form of these objects, which is the cylinder. And the cube is one of those shapes that affects everything. So why not try the cube on its own time and space and study the cube for its sake? So please remember that if you guys take on these shapes in their own environment, just doing form study for form's sake, it will affect your art in a positive way. I freaking promise you. It will make you a much more powerful artist. It will make you more fearless when you have to deal with odd shapes. The next time you have to draw armor, you won't feel so alienated from that form structure. What will happen is you'll be like, oh, I know how to do this because I've wrapped my head around this already. I've already tried drawing metallic surfaces. Try taking on some material studies as well so you can experience the material that wraps around the form as well on a more intimate basis. Please, oh shit, I didn't save. Did I save? I didn't save. Maybe it'll save on the screen. So please, yeah, don't forget the form that sits behind everything. So we don't have a solid theme today because I'm keeping it themeless for the first day on Twitch. But I'm gonna jump into this, and this is a whole different ballgame. This is about figure drawing and proportions and anatomy. So we're gonna jump from place to place here. So keep up with me a little bit. The head size is too large. I'm going to increase the density. If you guys want to shrink an object in unison, all you have to do on the liquefy tool is increase the density of that object. So the entire upper head area was too large. And I'm just gonna push these over. Also, the head was pushed over a little bit too much. So this means that it was a bit forward. He must have been doing like a dance for the head to have moved like that. So I'm moving this over to the side just a little bit, and I'll show you the before and after, what it looks like now. So before, after. It seems like you contorted the picture or there was foreshortening happening, but before the head size was way too large. It was like he was going to fall forward. And after, his head size is still large, but because of the caricature, because of the cuteness, because of what it is that you're drawing, we're going to have to keep the head somewhat large. I'm going to get back into liquefy, and I'm going to keep shrinking the head. I shrunk the head, but now I need to shrink the features. And the features are also a bit enlarged as well. Again, when you fix one problem, another problem shows up. And if you start fixing in that chain of problems, and you start fixing things up and responding to that chain of issues, it will eventually come together. You just have to be patient with it. And it'll come together for you. Sorry if I'm removing his likeness a little bit. I just need to make sure his facial features sit on the front portion of the cube. So before, really large eyes. It was like the, you know, those cutouts. You know when you go to theme parks and you have those cutouts and you can stick your head through, and it's people take pictures of you, and it's like some silly drawing of a strong man and a bikini clad lady. That's what it looked like before. It seems like his head was sticking through a hole in the back, and the face was not proportioned to the size of the body. So what I'm doing now is I'm just shrinking the head so that it matches everything. I'm going to keep going and try to match the shoulders to match symmetrically, to match the vertical symmetry on the body, because the other shoulders are a bit too far. You had a pretty like stable stance going on, kind of on the boring side. Maybe you could have really experimented a little bit with your gesture lines. Gesture lines and anatomy is a whole world of trouble that's waiting for you if you haven't tried it yet. Don't worry, because if you do practice your form and you practice those form structures on your right now in your time as you know, I guess a beginner, it'll affect the way you draw bodies. So it's an exponential improvement. It's not you're not going to start from zero if you do figure drawing, if you've been doing form studies. You're not going to start from zero. You already have your head around what form is. So that's like the first 90% of it. The rest of the 10 is just memorizing muscle structures and how they wrap and how they act. So don't be too discouraged if you haven't yet tried anatomy. If you're doing the form studies and you're thinking about it scientifically, it'll be very easy to you know, feel at home once you start the anatomy. So that's before, after. Look at those proportion issues. Let me sharpen again. Sharpen. Sharp mask. Before, after. Does everybody see these issues? How many of you right now watching know you have a tunnel vision? How many of you know you have a tunnel vision while you draw? There is quite a lag. I think it's an extensive lag on Twitch for those on YouTube, so you gotta bear with me before I get some answers. But how many of you know you have a difficulty in your like in the tunnel vision, seeing where your issues are? The best suggestion for me, 15 to 20 seconds. Wow. 15 to 20 second lag, guys, so bear with me. Sakaris, what I mean is, do you know you make mistakes, you just don't know how to fix them, and you know you do them every single time, and you just don't know how to fix them? I definitely did know back then, and I know now, where my proportion mistakes are. Absolutely. And and the best way to fix them. Number one, of course, the best way is what we're doing right now, which is critiques, getting someone else's input and getting someone else's sort of visual library to influence yours and how yours is generated. Also, there's interrupting your view, your channel of view, your point of view. It's flipping the canvas horizontally will reveal a buttload. That would have revealed it for me straight on. Also, be aware of what's influencing your tunnel vision. If you are constantly surrounding yourself with anime, and anime is like your life's force, is your lifeblood, and you are what we have come to know as a weeaboo. Joking. Thank you, Filthy Frank. If you are constantly surrounding yourself with these kind of proportions, then you will not help yourself move away from them. If you are using another artist as your reference, this is especially bad. If you use another artist as a reference for your work, you will develop all of their issues. All of the stuff they're not fixing, you're going to get it, and you're going to get it in a worse state. So please, please do not use anything other than real life as their source reference. All right? Because if you do that, you will get realistic proportions, and your tunnel vision and your visual library will slowly start to, your tunnel vision will dissipate. You'll no longer see, you will no longer be blind to the issues that you're currently suffering from. And your proportions, your visual library will generate in a more realistically grounded way. So you're never going to accidentally do this. This is a big issue. This is big. This is big, and this is for whoever did it. Please invest some serious time into just practicing realistic proportions, figure drawing for figure drawing's sake. Do not, after you're done your study, start to sneak, that devil in your ear start to tell you, okay, make this into a masterpiece. Give it a title. Give it a name. Give it some colors. Put it on your gallery. Use it as your as your spread for, your background for your Tumblr account. Ooh, worship it. Love it. That, if you guys do that, if you start worshiping your work, you will not, you will make it a big deal every time you do a study, which is really, really bad. Um, and then that's pretty much it. Please do your studies, and do your studies properly. Reference from realistic proportions so that you do not make these kinds of mistakes. All right? Okay, so I'm gonna, it's the shooting bullets. Shots fired. Okay, so for this lady, I'm gonna deal with her in a second. Color, color, color. Alright, so for this female beauty here, proportions are okay. I guess you have some cast shadows. You have a couple of symmetry issues. It's really hard to know where to start with this painting because there's so much in the way. And the main thing that's in the way is what's the biggest issue with the red and the green right now? Can anyone tell me what the biggest issue is? So I'm just fixing the proportions right here. Make the chin feel like it sticks out a little bit. Can anyone tell me what the issue is? Istebrak whispering in my ear. That's animation. I just noticed playing creative. Yeah, I'm playing all creative right now. My game? Creative. Contrast. Opposite colors. They're competing. Exactly. You don't want to do that. Her hair is red. Her face is red. She's got the makeup on that's red, but then she's got the background that's green. That happens in real life. In real life, you can have a green and a red together. However, in a focused image, in an image where you have not enough sunlight anywhere to support this kind of saturation, no sort of detectable background happening in the image. So where's the background? What is it? It's not really reading very well. And because of this, we're having a competition happening. She seems like she's outside, is in the moonlight almost, in very, very dim light, and yet we have this extreme saturation between the greens and the red tackling each other. If you want the greens and the reds to stay in the same painting, please, please up the contrast. And what I mean by that is bring in some sunlight, bring in the yellows of the sun. So I'm going to desaturate this. I just need the value of the dodge tool. The dodge tool likes to saturate and highlight, and it's a complete bitch to work with. Sorry for swearing. I'm not supposed to swear, right? The rules of conduct. It's a bee to work with. So I'm going to desaturate it. So don't worry about these pinks. I'll get rid of them in a second. Put them in their place. I think I'm just really excited about the Twitch movement. I'll start being boring again soon. So I need some heightening of the contrast. I also need to bring in the color of the light source. So what's the color of the light source? In this case, it's the sunlight. And I've made a couple videos about this. Please take advantage of those videos available to you guys. Lots and lots of videos I've made about how to paint skin realistically. What to think about if the skin is in dim light or if it's in the sunlight, how that affects color. Basically, it just affects saturation. So please look at those videos so that you guys can benefit from them. It's really imperative that you get a good hold over the skin tones. If you do want to do portraiture, you can't paint grayscales for the rest of your life. I'm just bringing in that warm sunlight color. Don't have time to detail this completely. And one of the biggest issues you have here is the extreme shadows and the darkness that you have. You need to really ease up on these, especially the ones around the light. Areas that are lit up, there's a halo of light that surrounds that area. And that's the biggest issue. So basically, if we want to deal with grayscale on its own, which you should, we're basically looking at it like this. We're seeing the darkening of that red that you're bringing in, not having enough light to saturate it. So it was a lack of light and the lack of contrast to entertain this level of colors. Bringing down that red and bringing down those darks, as I always tell you guys to do. Making sure you're using the darks only where you need them. So on the corners of the lips and in between the lips. After you get that, the red needs a certain darkness level for it to really read, so you need to bring that red, that color down all the way. And if there's more red on the lips, the red needs to be brought down, and I also cover this in the video. Also sharpen your cast shadows so we know exactly where the sun is coming from, where the light of the sun is coming from. Sharpen those shadows a little bit. There also needs to be some sharper shadows for the hairlines. If you skip these kinds of little rules, it becomes very, very painful for you to edit something you've already worked so long on. It becomes very painful to edit over those details. How am I working on the hair? So just casting a shadow from the hair onto the face. So that was the issue with the color. So please make sure you're not, if you want to have that much color and like a rainbow happening in your painting, which is okay, you can do that. You can use complementary colors. But you just did not have enough light supporting this kind of color, this color environment. Light environments support high saturation. Side of the nose will not get any light. This side will. And some of this light will reflect upward. Also, another big issue with the background, can anyone point it out? Again, 15 to 20 seconds. Depending on where you guys are, really. Can anyone else point out the issue that's happening in the background? I'm going to bring these values down one more time. And then bring the highlights only where I need them. So the very highs of the cheekbone get that highlight. Too dark, too dark, too dark. Too much contrast. Thank you, ardent being. It's too much contrast, meaning there's too much white against this color here. So you can have this gray, it's fine, you can have it. The only problem was that you had that white in the background. Not only did it challenge the foreground object in value, but it challenged it in color. So you had green against red and you had white against black. You had a lot going on that was not allowing the viewers to really enjoy the piece, enjoy the portrait. You had a lot standing in the way of the portrait just sitting there on its own. So look at how much easier it is to accept this character just by fixing that background color. So imagine if you fixed it both in color and in value. So please remember, do not work on white backgrounds, do not work on black backgrounds. There's no such thing as a white room that lets people have beautiful shadows, and there's such thing as a black room that lets any light in it to begin with. Both of those are caves, and they either wash away or completely block out. And it's important that you guys remember that in your painting. This mistake is not forgivable. You will go to the hole if you make this mistake. Also, please try to make the hair seem like it's not one solid object. Hair drapes, and it's not always clumped together. Bring in a secondary light source to separate the form sides from each other. And that's pretty much it. That's all I have to suggest, is there's a lot of editing on different levels of rendering. You have editing to do on the value level and editing to do on the color level. And this all is because you have no concept of color saturation, color relationships, and light relationships with color. Please watch that video that I made. It's available for you guys for free. I'm not asking you guys to give me 50 or 70 bucks subscription so that you can go watch that video. I have it right there. It's all the knowledge in my brain currently there in my brain, waiting for you guys just to see it. So please go and go ahead and take a look at it. It'll really help you sort of wrap your head around what the world of color and saturation really mean, and value as well. Yes, her shoulder does seem a bit odd as well, but I'm not going to go into anatomy now. So that's done. Okay, so on to this fella here. I think I'm going to go into expressions. I've already covered value, so that should affect. For expressions, what I recommend, you can't really get away with this eyebrow here. It doesn't, you're confusing two major expressions together. I would literally, look, I would literally flip this eyebrow upside down. That's how out of place it was. Flip vertical. And now the eyebrow is telling the right story. The eyebrow was in the completely opposite direction. Okay? When you experiment with expressions, the best thing to think about is symbols. What do people associate with an eyebrow that's upturned? Can anyone answer this question? What do we usually associate with this kind of eyebrow? It does not conform to the brow as well. I was going to cover that as well. Anatomy wise, that eyebrow wasn't making sense either. Thank you, Cadero. But what essentially are we seeing right now that right here that we changed? Attitude, frowning, worry. Exactly. You're giving off a different kind of message. I know you want to give off that kawaii, delicate, dear, kawaii kind of thing that's so delicate. That's a lady in the streets and a freak in the sheets kind of thing. But that's not going to work. That anime influence is affecting your realistic render. Do I have to pull up realistic Homer Simpson again? Please make sure that when you transfer a sketch or a sketch-based drawing or painting, sketch-based painting, into realism, um, uh, you are not, you are making sure that you question yourself on whether or not these sketch proportions can be used in realistic proportions. Can the sketch proportions be translated into the realistic painting? All right. That's basically what I mean. Please make sure that you are not doing that. I'm sorry, there's a question here. Are you going over Twitch submissions or are these random selections? Random. They're from with a queue that was already, some that were pending from a week ago and some that were posted today. She's just acting, but in reality, she's kinky as fuck. The lips are a little crooked. I'll get to the lips in a second. But do you guys see what I mean when you guys think about the symbol and what people are actually seeing? You're seeing your own tunnel vision. You're seeing this kawaii little cute. Ooh, I'm a kawaii damsel in distress. Ooh. But what we're seeing is nervous. I'm nervous. Am I cute? Am I cute now? Am I cute now? Am I cute now, senpai? That's basically what I'm seeing off of her. Because I'm the viewer and I have symbols in my mind telling me that why is her eyebrow upturned? Is she sad? So if you want to create like, a content, happy female model princess kawaii girl, please respond to the symbols already there present for you when we think about expression, the symbol expressions. So that's pretty much what I'm talking about right now, is to be careful about what exactly it is you're drawing and be aware of what you're doing. Pick up an expression sheet beside you and see if you are using these details, these little tiny suggestions, these tiny little symbols, sorry, that suggest different emotions. When you're thinking they're suggesting something else, they're not. As for the lips being crooked, I'm going to push the nose down to be a little bit on the center vertical axis of the face. And I'm going to push that chin back up so it can be a nice, controlled little locked in jaw that's nice and proportionate. I'm going to push the eye socket in and keep that baby face cheek. You can push it in if you want that sort of womanly thing. Not exactly like that because that look freaky. But yeah. I'm going to keep that chin sharp but proportionate. The triangle is present. Okay, let's take a look just on the before and after just right now. This is a lot harder to accept than this. This is closer to realistic proportions. How about the smile? When people smile, things happen on the face that cause the smile. They are called muscles. And these muscles compress with fat. And what happens is a line might happen, or a cheek line might happen, or something might happen that suggests that the cheek is expanding past, or the lip is expanding past its parameters. So the lip usually just sits here if it was neutral, but when it smiles, it goes all the way over here. And this affects this, and this affects this. So the lip affects the cheek, and the cheek affects the eyes. And the eyes affect the eyebrows. So it's all one big system, and if you get it, and if you see it as one big system, you will not make the tiny little mistakes that are makeable, that are easy to fall into, the traps. I'm going to cast some shadows from her chin, from her nose down there. Her nose seems a bit orange. I'm going to get the color correction and bring that pink back into her nose. You really don't need to bring in any new colors. You have your palette down. Don't bring any oranges or warms or random colors here and there. I'll bring in some color here. So this affects that. The cheek affects, the lip affects the cheek. So I'm going to place in that little laugh. Fuck, what's it called? The laugh line, but it's not really a line. It's a laugh bulge. Not too much. So this is a level of realism you might not want. Okay? So whoever you are, you might not want this. What to do is to find a compromise. Make sure you're not breaking any of the core rules, but you're still sort of keeping to your style. And your style is still considered, and you're not losing your personality in your work. I feel like this reads better to me than anything else. This is the kind of realism you see in the League of Legends splashes. This is the kind of realism you see in all kinds of concept art. People want, the realistic expression. It reads well, it captures the audience. Instead of everyone having to conform to your style, why don't you conform to the realism? Because that's what you're drawing. You're trying to draw humans, aren't you? I'm not one to tell people to conform in any way, shape, or form, but when it comes to art, there's some rules you can't break. So I need the lower eyelid. And this eye really, really seems empty. And it kind of, for me anyway, for my taste, but it's okay. I'm not gonna touch the iris. It's stylized. We need the light for the upper eyelid, the shadow, and then the light, sorry, for the upper eyelid, right along here. Also, there's the fact that there's no shadow for that entire area of the eyebrow. We need to make it seem like the eyebrow is sitting on the face. You can make the eyebrow tilt up like that. A lot of people have eyebrows that tilt up. Or you can make it go down. Thin it out just a little bit. Push those cheeks in together. That nice little compression. It's a lot cuter in my opinion. I don't know about anybody else, but this reads to me. Maybe it's my own style and my own taste, my own tunnel vision, but for me it really works. Oopsie. Just trying to get this tilt to match. It's the liquify messed it up. 1 second. Okay, so before, after, it's all your choice how you want to deal with these expressions. It's your choice what rules you break, it's your choice what rules you follow. But please remember that there are rules you can break that'll really mess things up. You have such beautiful blending, such a beautiful bubbly character, and you've got all those issues in there. So this is the closest realistic render to what you had before. The chin was long, the nose is out of place, the eyebrow was just upside down, and the lips weren't really expressing a really solid expression. They were sort of just hovering there in a laugh state. They weren't influencing the face in their movement. Does everybody know what I'm talking about? If I like your version of it, would make me a mod? If I like your version of it, would make me a mod. What? Yeah, the angle of the body is a little glamour shot. Have you ever seen those glamour shots from the 80s? Where one shoulder is above the other? Glamour shot 80s. Is that how you spell glamour? No, it's Istebrak. Is how you spell glamour. Glamour. Okay, so so there's this. There's that. Man, those 80s, man. I'm so happy I was a part of the 80s. Okay. There's that. That's just a joke. The eyebrow, like sort of the shoulder is above the. That's kind of what you were working with. And that happens. It's fine. It's doable. But I'm sorry. I'm just having too much fun looking at this. Round problem. Look at this guy. Okay, I'm done. I'm sorry. So that's pretty much the pose you were going for, and that's fine. That's an angle. It's just an angle of the body. But but yes, please remember to keep your expressions geared toward realistic functions on the face. Make sure they're representing symbols that we recognize. So if you're going to be happy, do the happy. If you're going to be nervous, do the nervous. If you're going to be sad, okay. You're going to have to follow these. If it's angry, just replace the eyebrows. There's so much invested in eyebrows. So please, please be careful of that issue. What you had before was a little uncanny. It was a little difficult to deal with. Sort of to accept and make read or feel like it reads. Okie dokie smoky. Alright, so that's it. Thanks everyone for watching. Have a great day. Bye bye.